Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. I was asked to share the completed journal from the Crafty Summer Simples collaboration, and I had shared that I'd made a bunch of ephemera bits using my Scrapbuster ideas, and then showing how I do that first, and then sometimes I'll put them in the journal afterwards. So anyway, this is the completed journal after I've taken these items that I'd made in advance and then just filled the journal with them. And so this will be a fairly quick flip through. And as usual, it is way too fat because I tend to make my journals way fatter than they should be. But I also learned a lot while I was creating this. And so those are some things I thought I'd share with you as I walk through it. The journal itself, I shared before, and I don't remember. I think it's about 7 by 5-ish. And it has a 2.5-inch spine, and though I really should have made it a 3-inch spine. That's about all for the front. That's, like I said, I've shared it before. I took some seam binding when I put the journal together, and before I put the inside liner on the journal itself, I sewed in some combined seam binding, and I put some pockets in there. So here you go. And most of these things you've seen. If you watched the previous video, you've seen these items. These are just these items in a journal, and let me see if that's a little bit better. Okay, so I made slight alterations when I was putting them in. So I had my pre-done ephemera, but every once in a while I had to change an orientation or add something to make it a little bigger or trim something to make it a little smaller. But for the most part, it was fairly quick. And I'm doing this now in between waiting for waterproofing to dry as I'm working on our master bathroom. So we weren't able to get a contractor who could come out and finish that or do the bathroom prior to me going back to school. And I really wanted a functional bathroom before I go back to work. So anyway, here you go. This is the concertina page, and I'm not going to tell you what each one is, simply because if you've watched the other video, you've already seen it. The playing card, and see there's some of the bits that I tucked into the completed pieces. And that was one of the things after I glued everything in that I was going to use. I went back and used the tags and the journal cards and that type of stuff and filled the pockets. And sometimes, like in this case, I had to make one to make it fit something, which was fine because I had the leftover bits that I was able to do that with. I've decided that I really like, pretty playing cards, and I've got quite a few with just some journaling space on the back, backing them that way. I really like the way they look. Maybe it's just because these cards happen to be pretty, but I will definitely do that again. And that's one of the things I learned when I put this journal together that that I enjoyed versus not enjoys. One thing I learned was that straw paper, it's sturdy-ish, but it bleeds through quickly. So any wet glue that you use on the back of something will seep through. You will see it. So I ended up using a lot of Score-Pal tape to put my pieces in. It takes a little bit longer to do it that way, but it still works just fine. So these are, again, and I added things as I went. Like I had this is a faux tea card. I believe it's from a Tracy Fox Love Junk Journals kit that I had out because of something else I was doing, and I thought, well, I like it there, so I'll put it on. And so there's some of that as I'm creating this journal too. Some of the things, like this tag wasn't supposed to necessarily be a pocket, but I found that I very rarely use things that I clip on. Here's a great example. Like this was a double-sided piece. This is what I call a 2-piece pocket, which I really love to make, but I find that I don't clip things on pages. Now, I don't know if that's simply because this paper is thinnish and it's not really sturdy enough to house many things like this that you're clipping on, or if it's just that I prefer single-sided things that I glue down. I don't really know the answer to that. But I did find that I very rarely, the things I had left over, and I knew I would have leftover bits, but the things that I had left over were oftentimes the double-sided pieces. So that was something good for me to keep in mind. And I was glad that I intentionally left some pockets empty because it encouraged me to go back and use some of my vintage ephemera, which is what this is. This is just an old, and I just folded it so it fit. I liked the colors and how they played together, so that's why that went in there. sometimes I added a couple extra tags or pieces, and sometimes I added a few less. Like here, these square folds, I added a second one just because I thought the balance was a little better. Pockets, and again, I had some of this from a recent, well, not recent, a couple months ago, junk journaling thrift show kind of a thing. And I had some pieces here, like this is Thelma Ruth Yoder, who graduated from nursing school in February of 1965. So, and I had this on my desk, and I thought, you know what, that'll look really great in there. And it reminds me to use some of that vintage ephemera in my journals. You know, just combining some of the pieces I had, like, oh, I had this journaling card. I had to trim it down a bit, but it went really nicely in this pocket, even though it wasn't necessarily designed to go in there. And again, I have some vocabulary cards that the color worked well with, so I put those in. Combined the pockets there, not pockets, those are envelopes. Combined some of the envelopes I made on a previous video to make a page. This is one I altered. It was another piece from my stash, but I altered it to coordinate with the kit. And I had found, again, at one of the junk shows, some really cool vintage postcards, and so I included some of those as well, making side tucks and bottom tucks and journaling spots and all of that. Some vintage card in there, and then just a journaling space. This is one of the magnet Tracy Two Sides. It's got a scrap pad on one side and a pocket with a note card on the other side. Now those I use a little bit more, but I have to remind myself to put them in towards the beginning of decorating a journal, because sometimes I'll have a blank page here and a blank page here, but when you're using these over-the-top pieces, you have to remember that you need both sides, front and back, to be able to use it. Same idea with if you're wrapping around the edge of a page. You need it to be able to have both sides of a page, front and back, not necessarily facing pages, kind of a thing. These were little notepads that I was using with another pocket, but that pocket didn't work well in the book, so I just took them out and altered them and put them in here in the policy closure pocket. This was another scrap that I just turned into a journaling card because it fit and it worked well with that piece. And again, same idea. Sometimes I pulled a ephemera piece from something else and put it into something I'd glued into the journal. And here's another vintage postcard. This one's from, oh, I don't know, I can't read it. Partly blocked, 1941 maybe? Anyway, so I was intentional about using some of those, and that was a lot of fun to do too. This was one that I had made a long time ago, and it just happened to fit in here nicely, and it coordinated, so I tucked that in. This is just some vintage ledger. I had a little bit left over from something, and I just folded it and tucked it in. I liked the number on the top, and I liked the way the colors worked, and so that was also a good reminder for me to go back and pull some of those bits and pieces. Couple pockets. I think this is a concertina. This is a faux vintage piece. I believe this is a Tim Holtz piece that I just backed. And this is that pocket with the dried flowers in it that I put underneath the transparency window. So, you know, when you take your journaling bits out, you've got kind of like a little surprise under there, which is, you know, which is kind of nice. This was something else that I tore off and put on here simply because I liked the balance that it created, and I liked the play of the spools of thread next to each other. And same thing with the birdies. This was something else, and it was too big for this spot, so I just cut it, and I made a simple journaling card just like this that looked a little bit like a bookmark, you know, not necessarily fancy or anything, but it worked well to coordinate with what I already had going on. And that was the goal here. And that's one of those circle pockets. And lift up. I did put Velcro on this just to hold it down, but I've got two journaling spots underneath there. And the chubby birdie with the hidden journaling, you know, the pull-out journaling spot. I tucked that into a belly band. This was a leftover bit from another piece, and I just cut it off to use it as a tab because it was too big with that whole set on, so I just cut that off to use it for something else. And it coordinated with the other papers, so I thought that would make sense. Well, here's more of that ledger, obviously a different page, but just tucked it into that pocket to kind of tie the pieces together. Here, same thing, just a regular journaling card. This is one of the pieces I made with the leftover bits at the end. I just put it on a piece of card to make a journaling card. And then that's another vintage postcard that color-wise coordinated. And just a journaling card added there. These were the paperclip pockets. Now this one was originally oriented with the paperclip on the top. But I needed it to go on the side to go in this pocket, and I really wanted to use it, so I just changed the way it was oriented. This was a scrap that I had that the colors worked really well, so I just cut a bit of that homemade tatting off and put it on the edge of a journaling card, or a plain piece of card there to make a journaling card. And that was a kind of a fun challenge and something I learned as I was doing this. I had all my pieces made, and then I had to kind of make them work for what I needed to fill the journal. And it was just a different approach, and it was actually a lot of fun to do. So this particular piece, this 3-fold pocket, all the pieces were ready to go and in there. So all I had to do was glue it in, and I was good to go. And that was kind of fun too, to just have something ready made. This also has a couple of vintage postcards, and I don't have anything on this particular vocabulary card, but I wanted to remind myself, like if I were making a note or if I were wanting to put something in here when I use this journal. This is a blank vocabulary card, and I wanted to remind myself that it's a double belly band, so I could put something up here if I chose to, or something down here. And that was the reminder. These were 2 different flips. One of them I just cut down so I could put 2 of them, these little scrap pads, on one page, just for balance. Fold over card, this was plain on the corner, and I felt like the page needed some coordination. So I just tore this off of another piece and glued it right down on here. And again, that's one of those things that I really enjoyed about the challenge of taking things that were already made and making them work for what I was doing. Another vintage from the Louvre in Paris, an old postcard, and another journaling card. This was the concertina piece, and I just liked how it fit in that pocket with the tri-fold of the books. I'm a book fan. Speaking of, somebody had asked me recently if I would, when I'm reading books that I enjoy, to recommend them. And I recently finished 2 different series by Lynn D. Walker. That's Lyndee Walker. And they were free on Amazon, Kindle Unlimited. One of them was the Nichelle Clark series, and that was, I think, 8 or 9 books. And then the other one was the Faith McClellan Texas Ranger series, which I really enjoyed. And they're clean, if you're a fan of clean fiction. And they were kind of romance mystery-ish, but clean. Anyway, they were really good, and I think that one had 7 books or something. Enjoyed those a lot. So if you're looking for something to read and you have Kindle Unlimited, there you go. All right, so the Gale pocket, and I used the 2 tags, and I used 2 of the paper clips on these, and I like the way that balanced. Here is an old postcard, Washington, D.C., the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, with the cherry blossoms, and then the colors worked well with that. And then this is another one of those tiny little itty-bitty journaling spaces with leftover bits. More Washington, D.C. in the spring. At least I think that's Washington, D.C. I'm not sure. I can't read the writing right now because my eyes are fuzzy. But just like the way it coordinated. And this had a boot on it, but I already used the boots on another one, so I tore this bit off and added it to it just to make it balance a little more for what I wanted. This is the altered envelope with a pocket, and then this is the negative frame. And I had this journaling card, trimmed it down a little bit, put a flower on it, and then you can see the flower through the window. And a journaling card, and then a journaling little booklet. Another one of those large journaling cards that used some of the doily with the tatted edges that was left over. And so I just backed that and tucked it in there so it can be used to write on. And then again, one of these card-backed playing cards. I, again, need to remind myself to do that. Oh, and there's a bit of ledger just because I like the contrast with the bit of ledger. And then this was a double-sided transparency pocket that had a bit of the gold leafing or gold speckles in it, which kind of made it sparkle a bit. Corner tuck with some more of those old postcards, 2 more pockets with journaling spots in them, couple vintage postcards. Again, there's Washington, D.C. in the spring, or it looks like spring colors anyway. And a little notepad that I had as for ephemera bits, and then a journaling card. And so that's it. That's the completed journal. And I tie it closed so it's not quite so fat, but there you go. Now, these are the bits I had left over. I knew I had made too many for the journal, but I can use them, put them in my stash and use them for other things. This is a double-sided. Again, I didn't think about it till after the fact. I had to have back-to-back sides in order to make this work, and I didn't have those. And it's not that some of these I didn't like. I thought they were fun, but they didn't fit for whatever reason because I hadn't made something specific to house these. So now I can use them for other things later on. And these are the bits I've got left over. I'll just put them in my stash envelopes. And, you know, like this, I could easily tuck this in a gift for somebody as a note card. Put a little message right here, and then they can tuck it in their own journal. Because it's flat, it'll mail nicely. It's easy. Same thing with this one. Just a little itty bitty notepad, and I put a label on the front. Those are real simple. Same thing with this. These could all be gift cards or journaling cards to include in a gift. This one was a double-sided one, and when I was going to use it in the journal, I tore that off because I found, like I said, that I don't pull things out and use double sides. I really love her, but she just didn't fit in any of the pockets because I hadn't made a special home for her. And so these are the bits that I have left to go into my stash. Also, as I was creating, this one's still not quite dry. This was a double-sided piece, and again, it wasn't going to be something I clipped in, but now I've got a little bit different color palette, and this is all ready to go, and I can glue it into another journal at some point. So there's that flip through, and I still have to finish the master bathroom. The sealant is on the floor now because I'm putting tile down, and so I put the Hardy back, and then I painted on the water barrier as recommended, and so that has to dry for a bit before I can put the tile down. So I had a little bit of time to do this, and I wanted to show one of the projects I've had for a while is another 12-inch paper multi-piece. And so on my next video, I've got the directions here. I've got this 12-inch paper, and it can be any 12-inch paper, but I have a lot of the Tim Holtz left, so I'll be using that. But there's, I think it's 4 different pieces with a 12-inch piece. Maybe it's 3 different pieces. And this is a pocket. Let's see if I've got something here that I can, here I'll use this flower card because it'll stand out. So there's a pocket here, and there's a belly band here on the inside, pocket and a belly band. And it closes up like this. And then there's a pocket on the front, a pocket on the bottom, and a pocket in the back. So this one's kind of a really fun one. It's probably similar to something someone's done somewhere, and I know I've got things that are similar to it, but not exactly the same. So I'll show you how I made this, again with a 12-inch piece of paper. And then these are all bits. Oh, those are notepads. Okay, so this was a 3-piece one. This is just a really simple, using the leftover strip, a notepad on one side, and then a double pocket on the back. Is it a double pocket? Yeah, double pocket on the back. And then this one is a tuck spot pocket on the back and kind of its own little belly band closure with some of the scraps and a notepad on the front, on the inside. So it's almost like a wallet, I guess. So it flips up, and then you use some of the scrap pieces to close it down, and then you've got a little space on the back. So my next video, which will hopefully be coming soon, once the tile goes down, it's going to take a day or 2 for the mortar to set the tile before I can grout it. So I'll have a little bit of time to make another video. So that's what's up next, and then I will show this journal, how I'm completing this journal. That'll be my next project after that. And it's a very similar idea where I'm taking pre-made ephemera and nothing else, and I'm going to fill this with some pre-made ephemera. And that will get me to back to school, and then things get crazy after back to school. But I will still try to come and do videos and share ideas every once in a while, simply because I enjoy it. It's my therapy, and I enjoy sharing things with you and hopefully inspiring you So thank you all for the kindness, for the wonderful comments. And if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I will do my best to get back in a timely manner. Take care all, and happy creating.